So what are the top 5 lies they tell us to break our resistance to the ongoing European genocide? Let's find out. We had colonies. Those evil Europeans went abroad and just took the land of others. So now, we robbed them of all they had and we just took everything, and this is why we have the wealth here in Europe. So now we have to share with those whose forefathers we robbed. First of all, not all European nations had colonies. Secondly, Russia had colonies because they were continuously attacked by the Mongols from the east. So they had to expand and expand and expand in order to, stop them from attacking the Russians. And in the end, they reached the Pacific Sea because the Mongols never stopped attacking Russia. In the case of France, for example, in North Africa, they took Algeria because Algeria was a Muslim slave base where they took slaves from Europe and exploited them. So it's not that black and white. There were different reasons for why European nations had colonies. Most of the colonies were huge losses financially to the European nations that had them. Also, Europe was not the only part of the world with colonies. Everybody who had the power to do so colonized others. Everybody with the power to do so attacked and conquered others. From the Mongol horde to the Ottoman Turks to the Muslim Caliph and so forth. Everybody did the same. Japan, China even. So the idea that Europe has to, pay back is nonsense. Why aren't they saying the same about all the other colonist powers? Why only Europe? The entire nation of Turkey is a Turkish colony, really. They just came from Central Asia and took the area from the Greeks. And they never gave it back. The cruel exploitation of slaves. Those evil Europeans enslaved others. So we have to, pay them back. Same story really as the colonist story, but it's equally, a lot of crap. If you want to attack somebody for slavery, you could start with the Muslims. And when you're done with the Muslims, who were the biggest slavers by far, then you can move on to Jews and Turks and so forth. All of them were bigger slavers than the Europeans. So, not an argument. It's bullshit. We need to help the poor refugees. Well, if you really want to help them, then you should help them where they are, because it costs about 10 times as much, at least, directly to help them here in Europe. So, not an argument. If you want to help refugees, you do it where they are. Don't bring them to Europe. And I may add that the same people who want to help the refugees are often very much environmentalists, and they don't seem to connect the dots here and understand that if you bring millions of people from the third world to the first world, then they too are going to pollute just as much as we do. They're going to destroy the environment and contribute to the destruction of the environment even more. So don't bring them here. They will destroy the environment even more. Related to the point about us helping refugees, are they really refugees? I mean, why should we help refugees if they're not refugees? The vast majority of people who, are defined as refugees are adult men, or men in their fighting age, so to speak. Where I come from, A man who runs away from conflict is a deserter, a traitor, not a refugee. Women, yes. Children, yes. Adult men, or men in general in fighting age, nope, not refugees. If you look at the refugees coming, only a minority of them even come from a war zone, from a conflict area. And if you're not from a conflict area, you're not a refugee. So, not an argument. We're not helping refugees. We're helping adult men invade or take over or migrate to Europe. The absolute dumbest argument we have in relation to the genocide of the native Europeans is that it's good for the economy. Come on. They argue that we are not paying for their, for them, their childhood, we're not paying for their education. We just get them here, and they are ready to work. First of all, they don't always work to begin with. Secondly, we are supposed to give them housing, right? And when we have millions of people into Europe, all of a sudden, then we need houses for millions of people. We need hospitals for millions of people. We need prisons to take care of the criminals amongst them and so forth. And non-European immigrants are extremely overrepresented when it comes to welfare, when it comes to healthcare, and when it comes to justice and the prison system. They are overrepresented to the extreme in all these three. And I may add that healthcare and welfare are the biggest expenses we have in our nations. I think welfare alone makes up around 40% of the entire Norwegian what's it called in English? BNP, I don't remember. So the direct cost is extreme, but also indirectly, because how am I supposed to get a doctor when we have millions of extra people using our healthcare system? So more of us are suffering because of that. And how am I supposed to afford a house or a home for myself when the prices skyrocket because all of a sudden there's a huge demand for houses? When my parents were young, they could pay 1 year's salary for a house. Today, it's probably 20. So, year salaries, that is. So it's the prices have just went up, and there's no way in hell that young people today will be able to afford a home of their own. And that's largely because of mass immigration. Their arguments in favor of immigration are bullshit. Their arguments are made up to break our resistance to the ongoing native European genocide. They are genociding us, and they try to make us accept it. They are genociding us, and they even try to make us embrace it. Stop the native European genocide now.